Hi, and welcome to Spotlight Indian Women Entrepreneurs. I am Navya Morampudi, and I am here to give you the success strategies for the women in business and the transitioning out of their careers from the life of entrepreneurs, digging with deep research on their entrepreneurial journeys. In this spotlight, we are going to explore what it actually takes to create for self employed success and freedom. We have Dr. Rukmini Rao here with us. To give you a little sneak about her, she hailed from Hyderabad, has always been a true blue Hyderabadi who studied at Osmania University and even taught at St. Francis College for Women, Begumpet. But she traveled to the country capital for her higher studies. She recalls going through a lot of difficulties as she had left her home because she was unhappy. All of this helped me reflect, and I realized that women have no support structures. She says, stating that as the reason why she decided her life to becoming the strongest support for those women who need it the most. Following her intuition, she returned to Hyderabad in 1989 and worked with the Deccan Development Society, an organization that works for the betterment of women farmers. Her job was to develop leadership roles, and one such group in the Medak district was so popular that it became an alternate dispute resolution group. Then there was the Mothers Committee, and all this was much before the self help group era, somewhere in 1997 or 98, she shares. Soon she went on to get up the Gramya Resource Center, which works exclusively for rural women and those rights in the district of Nalgonda and Khammam. Most of us get our daily dose for the news through the morning newspaper or just scroll down through social media for feed and express remorse or anger inwardly and sometimes outwardly. Upon reading frequent news or rape, dowry, death, and infanticide cases, which have no more or less became a fiction in the newspaper. Now you may think that this applies only to the present, but apparently not. Because even as far back as 1970, Dr. Rukmini Rao was sick to her stomach on particular case where a woman had been burned to death. So this informal group called themselves Saheli, extending their friendship, support, and help to many such distressed women. We had bought about 7 pro-women legislations during that time, Dr. Rukmini Rao recalls. Believe it or not, this is just the beginning of her story. Let's listen more from her. Hi, ma'am. I am Navya Morampudi, and we are very, very happy to have you here, Rukmini Rao. We'll be having a short conversation now to inspire people and get to know you and make people know you. And your work, it is incredible, and we want to make it to all the women in India to know about you. If not, it can be global. I'm having a few questions for you, so your answers will be really valuable for all the women and young women like us. My first question will be, when did the entrepreneur bug bit you?
Well, I don't know whether I should use the word entrepreneur bug because I used to live in Delhi, and one of the things we read in the newspapers every day was about some woman, who died. It was a accident, newlywed woman died in an accident, So in the initial first of 1 or 2 years, 76, 77, they'd say accidental death. Then it turned out, that there would be neighbors who are going and demonstrating at the police station and saying that she didn't die on her own and she actually was killed. So I and many of our women friends, we started reflecting on why is it, if it's an accidental death and it has happened as an accident and a woman is burned to death at the stove, it should usually happen to young women, teenagers who are just learning to cook, etc. Whereas these cases were always of young women who had just been married 1 week, 10 days, 2, 3 months, within half a year of marriage, this was happening. So, this collective thinking, coming together as a group and thinking about a problem is what I would say encouraged me to move forward. Because very often, in our world, women are sort of isolated. We are all, mostly women are working at home, bacche bacche hai, they're busy with the home life. And even when you go to college, there are parental norms, pulling you back. Whereas boys will sit in the library till 1 o'clock at night, maybe read, maybe do gupshup. But for example, in Delhi University, women, they have to come back to their hostels by a fixed time, So this kind of pulling back, I overcame that by being with a group of friends, I think. So I would say that in India, you work alone, but for women, it's very important if we have a good peer group to work with. So I would say that really enabled me to take on many of the early tasks that I took up.
Wow, that's really amazing, ma'am. And that men and women gender biased in all hostels and all that I could relate a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm moving on. So, my next question will be, how much did you know about being financially fluent?
See, I ran away from home when I was 24 years old. Okay. I had very little money in my pocket. So I do understand what financial hardships are. On the other hand, I don't think money is the end of life. Because very often in our society today, especially with capitalist growth and the way our society is growing, people think we must have more money, one car, no, have a more modern car, new car, ek ghar hai to dusra kharido. So there's a lot of too much value attached to material things. So one thing that helped me to do what I'm doing is I decided that I will not have material things as a goal in life. I wanted to do something interesting. I wanted to be with interesting people, do good work, and I also wanted to do something which will help other women who are in difficulty, and bring about some change in society. So it was not as if I had a goal. I didn't write it down because I do know that young people nowadays set up life goals, and they do it very consciously. But for me and our generation, I think it was a much more unconscious process. But very clearly, I had decided that money is not what I'm looking for. So that helped me a lot, because what it does is it allows you to peg yourself at a lifestyle where you don't have to go on looking for a better job, more important job, because better jobs, high paying jobs means you have very little time then to do other things. So more time goes in dealing with job life. But for example, I worked half time in one job, and that worked very well for me. The money was less, obviously; it'll be half as much as it should have been. But I worked 35 hours a week, and then the other 35 hours or 40 hours, I did full time activism in my women's group. So I had lot of time. It released a lot of energy and a lot of time and good feelings to do lots of positive things. So I was part of a women's group, which I helped to set up with a group of friends. We did it collectively, and that's called Saheli. It is still running today. And our generation, older women who started it, we have moved on to do many other different things in different parts of the country, and the younger generation has taken over and are managing the group. So Saheli was set up to address women's issues. Stop dowry violence, dowry deaths, get the police to act when they should act. We looked at policies new, and we campaigned for new laws. So all this kind of work can't be done by one entrepreneur. I put that in quotes. Yes, as an individual, we do start an NGO, we do things. Set up institutions, for example, but in an institution is never run by one person. You will have your colleagues, you'll have all kinds of people working with you. So I would say that real entrepreneurship spirit means that we should be very willing to work with others and reach out to others. And also, in a capitalist world, they say competition is very good, but I would like to say that collaboration is equally good, if not better. If you want social change, you have to collaborate. You can't compete for social change. We had an independence struggle. Independence struggle mein kya kiya? Many political parties came, many groups came together, young and old came together. So I feel that collaboration is a value which we should not forget, because we hold that value in our family, but in public life we very often forget it. And unfortunately, our schools are nowadays, it's changed a lot, by the way, because individually, marks kisko zyada mila, who's got more marks, 99, so somebody will cry, I got only 98. So that kind of competition has moved on, because now globally we know that for good companies, which are doing well, they have done very well because they do group work. They have intercultural groups, they have global groups where all kinds of communities and castes and classes work together, and multinational groups come together. So I think that the new lesson is collaboration for all of us.
Yeah. So nowadays it's been really easy for people to collaborate and all. And I would like to ask a question related to social media and how it is impacting. What is your view on social media, ma'am?
I think social media is very good because today's media, the mainstream media from which we got news, unfortunately has been bought up by different industrial houses. So depending on the company, depending on the political party, every political party has its news channel, every big media group has its own channel. So the news, which is supposed to be unbiased, is no longer so. So what we find is that social media or alternative media is helping to spread a little more genuine news, etc. On the other hand, we also know that social media also has its own controls, and you can have somebody setting up false information. One letter, usko thoda badal ke, it sounds like 100 people have sent when actually it's only one mind who's thinking about it. So I feel that social media is very good for young people, lot of knowledge. For example, the COVID information on COVID, we are sending out to our village groups through social media. We are using WhatsApp groups to send genuine information. So we have to guard against the false media, whether it's in mainstream, whether it's in social media. And now, of course, young people are much better aware that we can also go and fact check. So if somebody is saying some story, we can go and fact check whether it's true or false. So I feel that critical, whether it's social or mainstream or whatever media, we should take everything, understand everything with a critical mind.
Of course, ma'am, that really had a good point. Thank you so much for that answer. What is your view on men these days? And do you think they are becoming better in way of treating women, or is it becoming worse?
I would say they are the other half, you know. So it's not a question of whether they are treating better or not. I think like women, we are all types of women. There are all types of men. But what I would like to say is not in pinpoint on individual men whether they are better or worse. Now the issue is that women and men are part of a patriarchal society. So, what does a patriarchal society mean? It gives certain privileges to men institutionally. For example, you are an engineer and you're not doing your work in your profession. You have shifted to something else. So, why have you done that? Why is it that you can't get an equally well paying job as a young man might? Or if you get a job, why do your parents feel it's not worthwhile sending her there? भेजने के लिए. So these are all systems questions. So I would say that as before, increasingly we continue to be in a patriarchy has not gone away. It's not changed. But there is a big move to try and change the situation. And I would say that a lot of awareness has come in now. Because I find that when I go to a college and I have a program with young men and women, so we had a debating competition. Should men and women be equal? So one young man said, "Ha, madam, they should be equal, but what was the but?" He said, 51% or 49% hona chahiye. That means men should have the upper hand and women should have but little. But the thing is, that is a mindset today. And that is a mindset of men that they feel challenged. They feel that they have to prove themselves. And in today's world, where especially post pandemic, many men have lost jobs, can't support their family, because a man of the house is supposed to do this economic bail gadi chalana hai. So if they can't do that, then their self-esteem is coming down.
Yeah.
Their self-esteem comes down. How do they show it? They're either drinking too much, or if the wife says a small thing, they're showing their anger on the wife. Why do they show it on the wife and not on the street? Because wife is apnapan, I can do it and get away with it. If I go on the street and shout at some stranger, he will give me one thappad. If I shout at my wife and give her a thappad also, nobody will say anything. No, they will say, she must have provoked him. So I would not like to. Yes, men have privileges which women don't have in our society. On the other hand, these are systemic issues. I don't feel it's right to only look at it male, female, husband, wife. It's not one to one we should think about. Yes, one to one there are issues, but more importantly, there are systems issues. Like now, recently there was a study out on impact of COVID on women. Now, women are supposed to have worked some 1 billion so many hours more than men did because they were at home, more work at home because the family is at home, children are at home, midday meal school mein milta tha, that also now you have to cook at home. So women's work, and then when people fall sick, usually it's the women who are taking care inside the house. So care work, reproductive work, making sure the family is able to get up next morning and go to work or be at home. That is all women's responsibility. So women have the double burden, housework. So that housework component, if men start sharing, a lot of the burden will reduce. Now, if we look at Western countries today, at the so-called more progressive countries, which are richer countries, two things have happened. Machines have taken over some of the work. Like you have a dishwasher. So there's no argument कि तुम दोगे कि मैं दूंगा. You have a washing machine. So the work burden at some level has reduced, but the basic reproductive function that we talk about, reproductive labor that we talk about, having children, taking care of children, taking care of housework, these are mainly still in women's on her head. And in India, what do? We pass it on to our servants. I always tell my friends that middle class Indian women have it good because you pay very little and you get such good services. No, you get an ayah at home, you get a cook at home, whatever. But for the poor women, what happens? Like now during COVID time, I have young children, no, who are students. They're not able to listen to their classes because their mother is calling them ke jharu karo, ye karo, wo karo, So depending, so I would say that what happens to men and women and relationships is really not just something which middle class people live. It's based on your class, it's based on your caste, it's based on your financial condition, So, and whether you're a rural woman, whether you're an Adivasi tribal woman, or whether you're a city woman, so all of this is an issue. So I would say that this is a very complicated kind of a matter, and we should look at it in a very careful way to get the correct understanding.
That is a great view of seeing things. Like, I thought you would include something else when you said like, COVID-19 impact on women, but that is really a great point to mention. Thanks, ma'am. And I would like to know what encouraged you or what get you motivated towards women empowerment.
First, because I lived in Delhi and there were all these dowry cases happening, and every day we would hear somebody has died. So many of us as young people, we went and did hi, police, hi, file a case and all that. So after doing it for a few times, 5, 6 times, we started asking ourselves, what are we doing? Because we know the police in those days, 40 years ago, I'm talking about, probably not born then. Police will not act, the police have their own agenda. So then, but the woman is dead. So, and very often we talk to the girl's parents, and the girl's parents and family would say, "वो कल घर आई थी, बहुत रो रही थी, उन्होंने बताया कि that she's afraid they will kill her." But what did the family do? No, your place is with the husband, because family is also very bereft. They have spent 10 lakhs on the wedding. So if she comes home, then what will they do with her? So I think so. The girl would go back, and then she would die. So we decided, our women's group decided that we will set up a place where if a woman wants to live with dignity, she can come to us. So that is our group, and that's why it's called Saheli, a woman friend. So many women then, instead of, because options for women were very little. You either with your in-laws or you go to your parents. So we created the third option. So I've housed many women in my own home because we never had money to set up a house, and uske liye we, every time we calculated, we needed 5 lakhs. Nobody had 5 lakhs in those days. So we decided we discussed a lot, then we said ghar le jayenge. So we all decided we'll spread the women around in our own homes. And I lived with the two other women. We were in a small commune. So it was easy for us to accept anyone who came to us. And many other friends also took the women home. And we helped them to find lawyers. We helped them to find jobs. And we helped them to rebuild their lives. And over a period of them, when families are supportive, we found that the women are able to rebuild their lives very quickly. But sometimes when the families, girl's family itself is condemning her, saying, no, no, go back and harass her, then it takes her much longer to stand on her own feet. So I urge everyone that I know, please, if your daughter comes home, support her and she will become a support to you. So it works both ways, because if someone comes home and starts doing things for herself, tomorrow when the family needs her, she'll be there.
Yes, ma'am. That's a lot to do for the society. That is really a great initiative. And you should have so much kindness and all to do all the work and every day to handle many new women and their mindsets to handle. So, how did you manage your stress, ma'am, at that time?
Stress was managed with friendship. I would say that, if somebody died and we went for a demonstration, that's very stressful, because, it's a helpless situation. And usually the women will have small children, etc. But on the other hand, if we were successful in one case to get somebody's dowry back, like I went one day, a group of us went and rescued the baby from the husband's family, because she was breastfeeding the baby, but just to harass the mother, no, they took the baby and they were just keeping the baby with them. So 3 or 4 us dressed nicely and went, and while some were talking to the in-laws, we brought the baby back, because whoever has control, then the other party can go to court. So rather than for the woman to run after them, we thought, let them go to court and get her properly. So we would do actions, we would take direct action, and that is what helped us to overcome our own sadness, our own failures, because you don't always succeed. I mean, failure is part of life. I mean, we do fail and again also. But for example, this work that I'm describing to you, Saheli, started in 1981. And we have been consistently telling the government, please do something for women, invest in women, help them to overcome the crisis. And only after the Nirbhaya case happened in uh, 2012, and only now in 2017, now the government of India has set up the shelters across the country now. So we had 40 years of failures. I will say the 40th year was a success, because what we as a group did to help women to recover their lives and their themselves, it has taken the government and campaigning and talking and moving things and doing this not only with the government locally, nationally, as well as we work with UN Women. And we had the UN conference in Beijing in 1995. So everywhere, every step, we were pushing the agenda, pushing the agenda. So I suppose you can say we failed for 40 years and succeeded in year 40, or 38 or 37 or something like that. The thing is, don't give up.
Yeah.
Because I feel our motto, like not only my personal motto, but all of us women activists, women who want to change the world, we can't afford to feel sorry for ourselves. We have no time. We have to take the next step, next step, next step. Chalo, you got hurt, get up, pick yourself up, move on. So that would be my message to all young people, and I'm sure you yourselves think that very rightly, that we have to pick ourselves up and go. You remember that there was a case in Mangalore where some young women were beaten up by some hooligans. You remember there was a case, young women had gone to have a drink in a bar and they were beaten up by some gangsters. So what did the women do? They didn't sit down and say, hi, we got beaten up. No, they sent a message to everybody in the country publicly, send us your underwear, pink colored. And they sent all the pink underwear to those goons and shamed them. So that is also a way of acting. Shame the people who want to put you down. And they think they became a laughing stock in the whole country, those guys who had, they thought they were so macho and ladkiyon ko kuch keh rahe hain, beat rahe hain, such rubbish. So they got a good, nice thappad without anyone lifting a hand. So I would say that's how women must work. And work together, then we will overcome our troubles. Because it must have been so humiliating when it happened. Young, 3-4 young women, कोई कुछ दुपट्टा पकड़ के खींच रहा है या कुछ कर रहा है, very humiliating public incident that was. But the women got back their own dignity by doing things collectively.
By this thing, not only the abusers got offended, but also the people who debate and talk about women going out and women wearing short dresses will be abused and all. So that is a great thing that happened, ma'am. Thank you so much for mentioning that, by the way. And I would like to know your greatest fear and how do you manage fear?
Once again, for somebody like me, as I told you, I did have a lot of struggles building myself up financially, etc. And as I told you, money was not the main thing, but very often for women, how will I be independent? Money means independence and autonomy. Yes. So not having autonomy is a genuine fear for all of us, So what did I do when I was in Delhi? I was planning from urban, I wanted to come and work with rural women. And since I decided that money बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं इकट्ठा हो सकता है with the kind of work we do, I studied. I educated myself. I got myself a PhD from Delhi University with the understanding that, okay, if I have a minimum degree, I can always find a teaching job in a college or a school or somewhere. So you try to, what should I say? What's the right word? You try to curtail your fears. You try to enclose your fears in a corner of your mind. It's not that it will go away, but you can contain it. It's not like, oh, what will happen to me? What will happen to me? So that's you get over that. The second thing that I feel that we as women who are active and whatever we want to do in life, friendships. Friendships have helped me to overcome. Actually, I have no fear because of friendships. Because even when we had very little money, we could share a house. 3 of us used to share a house. I only paid 50 rupees rent in a 3-bedroom house. That's because other 2 women were working. And afterwards, one of them decided to do full-time work. I got a job. I was paying the rent and she was doing alternate work. So we shared our burdens and we shared our needs and we shared our ideas. So we could need not fear. So we were able to do a lot of things. So for me, minimum for women, I feel it's very important that you have minimum economic independence. That is up to you to decide what standard you want to maintain. Like I know village women and activists who live on 3,000-4,000 a month. And I thought I could also live like that, but it didn't turn out like that. I also worked as a consultant and I do my own work. So it's up to us to decide. But one thing I can say, if you are sensible and not only running after money, have a good base of friendships. I have not done badly for a person who's run away with 30 rupees. No, I have not done badly at all. So I'm okay. I have my own place to live in. I have enough money, retirement bhi nahi hua, but I'm still working. I'm 70, but I'm still working because I love doing what I do.
Did you ever look back at your family and all, or like very tough time that you thought I would have done different?
Yes, yeah. I don't think I would have done it differently, but yes, because I have a son and he was 4 years old when I left home. So that is if you want to call it a regret, I would say that's a regret that I did not have the means to take him with me or to fight for him. He grew up with his father. It's not because I didn't want him. It's because I wanted him, but I could not because I had no means at the time. I didn't have a job at the time, etc. But now over the years, I do. It's taken a while, but I do have a good relationship with him. We see each other. He doesn't live in India. He lives outside. But so I think all our life, not only me, there'll be many women like me or differently. Everybody will have some issue which they feel they could have done better or differently. But I don't feel I could have done something differently. But I regret that decision because see, a child doesn't get to choose what they want. No, my son did not choose whether he'll come with me or stay back. It was my decision. So in a way, it's a little bit enforced. But that was between the family and we decided that we would do things in a certain way. And it has worked out well because he has access to both sides of the family. It's not that we are bitter and don't talk to your father, don't talk to your mother. It's not like that. So we try to, at least I try to get what would you call a win-win situation, as you were saying earlier. No, you try to create a win-win situation for all parties. But yes, we have many, many regrets about what we do in life, small and big sometimes. But we have to go beyond that. We have to move on. You can't just be stuck with one difficult decision and say, okay, I did that. And we also, and I think for women, it's a very important issue. No, we live with guilt because we have from childhood we are taught that we should love everyone and we serve everyone. And I also grew up like that. My mother was a very independent person, but I also grew up in a traditional Indian household where all the dues were the same as for you and everyone else. So you do feel that you've stepped out of the boundary in a way. But on the other hand, I feel I have gained a lot by stepping out of that boundary, because if you're only inside the house, you don't really see the world as it is.
Yeah.
We get filters from our families, and we are also told what to think. But when you step out, you are able to see a lot more. You are able to see the injustices in the world, actually.
Yes.
That's what I should say. Because otherwise, I come from a very spoiled, pampered background. So I would have never known कि ये सब होता है दुनिया में. But having come out, it has made me very aware. It has made me very aware of the kind of discriminations that we Indians push onto others, the discriminations women face, intersectionalities of gender, how we look at gay people. So every section of society, there is some kind of discriminatory attitude by one group against the other. So if we want a just society, if we want a society in India where every citizen has equal rights as a citizen, that's a lot to work for. And I feel that you as young people really need to get beyond the binary of male female only, because now we are understanding there are many genders. It's not just male female. There are many genders, so we also have to understand what is going on in our society and how we can reach out to bring the change. Because as I keep saying again and again, you don't do it alone, or your class alone, or your caste alone. No, it doesn't work like that unless we come to grips with all the elements that are oppressing people around us. And if we work together, then we can overcome.
Yes, ma'am. Good leaders make change.
I don't know whether I'm a good leader or bad leader, but we push
I can sense that.
whatever way we can, in whatever way we can.
Yes. Your son might have missed you in his earlier ages, but now he had a very, very proud moment that his mom is some great personality that changed.
Forget it. Don't talk about great personalities. I'm just like you and me. I'm just an ordinary person. I'm no great person. I'm just an
Everyone
ordinary
are
person.
ordinary, but things we do makes us extraordinary. I feel that, ma'am. I can just feel it from you. And yeah, I would like to know more about your organization and its work, because that is from past few years back, but still that is needed. So we could have include a few things that you did, and we could run your legacy.
Sure. See, while I was in Delhi, I worked with the Saheli, which was a women's organization which we set up. And when I came back to Hyderabad, I actually worked with rural women in an organization called Deccan Development Society. Now, the Deccan Development Society that works near Zahirabad in Medak district. So there, the women agriculture workers, they are mainly Dalit women from so-called untouchable communities and so-called illiterate. But the thing is, they feed all of us. What they grow is what we are eating every day. And if they did not do their work, then you and I would starve to death because we don't know how to go and plant a seed or harvest a crop or anything. So I worked with the women, and my role in the organization was to help to organize them and to look at issues of violence that they were facing. And 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there was a lot of child labor, a lot of child marriages. Many children were out of school. So we mobilized the women agriculture farmers and laborers, and we work to reduce. So today, in those days, women who were earning 5 rupees or 10 rupees a day, today they have enough money to buy their own land. Earlier the government was giving them 3 acres. Now today also the government has a program to give 3 acres of land to Dalit women. In those days they used to get 1 acre. But so through the organizational work, women have become landowners, and they grow organic food which is healthy for all, and they're doing things so beautifully that hundreds of groups from all over the country and also from African countries are coming to learn from them as to how they do organic work, etc. So I feel very proud that I was associated with these women, and I learned a lot from them. In history we learn about Jhansi ki Rani, blah blah. But I have learned from rural women. What one woman can tell me names of 80 varieties of seeds which she saves, and she's doing it on behalf of whole of humanity. So the Dalit women are doing fantastic things in the DDS area. Having done that for almost 25 years, I'm still associated with them, but I'm not working in the field. I and another colleague, Jamuna, we set up our women's group called Gramya Resource Center for Women, and we've been running that from 1993. And both of us started working in Nalgonda district, and we went in there because there were cases of infanticide of baby girls. So the community was poor, dispirited, and they at that time they were selling babies, they were killing babies. So, and we didn't know, somebody just called us and said there's some case, somebody wants to kill 2 babies. And they were twin babies. So we went in and we talked to the family, and that whole process of change started from there. And then we helped to set up schools in the area, because many of the children know they're taking one goat to graze out in the field. Teachers were not going into the area because little remote. It's close to Hyderabad, but still the location is a bit remote. So starting from there in that journey, now I can very confidently say 98% children, 99% children are all in school today. And then because some of the girls were still not coming back, 20 years ago we started a bridge school, so that girls who are parents are migrating and the children go with them, so they miss school, so they stay with us in our bridge school for the last 20 years. And slowly I'm bringing down the numbers, because now government has also opened many social welfare hostels and many possibilities are opening up. So the idea was that when they need it, we started with 120 children, because they were all laborers and doing bonded labor, other kinds of work. And so now some of the girls who studied with me today are working as nurses, they're Anganwadi teachers, they are health workers, some are married with children, some have set up their own businesses. So it's nice. So that whole generation of young women has developed. And today I'm doing a lot of work to create awareness among children, among young women, about sexual harassment, about rape, about preventing child marriages. So last year we reached out to almost 3,000-4,000 young girls in high schools and colleges. And I've also started working with boys, because boys also have to learn to do things differently. So on the one hand, I'm currently, we are running the Saki Center in Nalgonda district, and that supports women who are facing domestic violence. So over the last 3 years, I think we have supported some 1,400 plus women who have been beaten up by their spouses, or the spouse has run away, and there are a lot of young women who are running away with their boyfriends, and that has created a lot of upset in their own lives and for their families and society, because the boys also are not thinking much. They are young and they go away for 3-4 days, 1 week, and when they run out of money, they just then dump the girl and they also go away. But today the law is very strict, because if they've had a sexual relationship and the girl is a minor, according to the POCSO Act, the boy will go straight to prison. So it's not good for the boys. So the boys also have to become very aware that I cannot be irresponsible, that I have to take responsibility, and having a relationship with a minor girl is a no-no. So we are doing a lot of outreach work to create awareness. And in our own area, I'm just starting again to see whether we can promote organic agriculture in our area. It's tough because the situation, rain-fed, difficult situation. But I would say that there's been a big change in the way people look at themselves. Because, starting from Ladki Nahi Chahiye, just kill them or get rid of them. Earlier, we had campaigned a lot, and we found 200 children who had been bought by different agencies, and we asked the government to take over. So the children were all taken over by the government and made secure through a government system. And and today now every district has what they call Shishu Griha. If the child, if family doesn't want. But what we are telling families is, please plan yourself. Don't have girls and give away, because it's not a good message. No, you keep on having girls and dump the children in on government lap and wait for a boy to be born. So that kind of inhuman attitude towards women and towards girl children is a no. So we continue to do our campaign work, and a lot of change has come. I won't say it's 100% changed miraculously. You're talking about failures, no? In 20 years, today I can say last year there were 3 such cases where girls were given away, but we recovered the children. The difference between then and now is, earlier 2 of us used to do the work, then the organization with 4-5 staff, all of us together used to do the work. Today, the whole government system is doing the work. So the Anganwadi worker is very alerted, because over the years they've been trained to become very alert. So if any child is missing, if a pregnant woman comes back to the village without a baby, she's gone to Hyderabad when she was pregnant and she comes back without a baby, then full investigation goes on. What happened to the child? Whether it's, so the last year, as I said, we recovered 3 children. So that's also, so talking about failures and successes, it's a very slow process when we are talking about social change. But that doesn't mean that zyada time lagega to hum so jayenge. It's not like we should just go to sleep or we should take it easy because anyway they changed it. So the more work we do, the more little push we give, suddenly, the change will happen. Like, we never thought all children will be in school, but it has happened. Not only because of Gramya work, our work alone, but we are working. There are other NGOs with whom we discuss and work and campaign. Then we are discussing with government. Government itself also wants to do things. So all minds put together, working together, we have managed to achieve that. And Telangana government has done good in terms of, social welfare hostels and making sure that children get better quality education than earlier.
Yes, ma'am. Like generally, when we talk about farmers and farming, we get men in mind, but there are a lot of women than men working on it. So, what is your view on that as you worked with rural?
Well, let me give you statistics rather than view. 70% of all agriculture work is done by women.
Yes.
70% of the work. If you look at land ownership, only women own only 13% of land in the country overall. Okay, so the assets, and this is what we were talking earlier, no? What is patriarchy? The assets are in the hands of men. The free labor is done by the women on family farms. So that is one part of the work. And so the women farmers are completely invisible. Then let us go to forest areas. If we look at forest areas, what do we find? All the Adivasi women, they are using forest produce. They, collect minor forest produce. They process, they sell, and then they also do agriculture. So that is also missed out. But now we have the Forest Rights Act, which recognizes and says that the ownership rights to that land for farming, etc., should be given to the husband and wife both. So in some states, both names are entered. In some states, they forget to write a women's name. Forget or what? Deliberately. That's also a patriarchal attitude. Na? Mahila ke naam pe kyun likhna hai? So I, together again with a group of friends, we have a national platform called Makam, Mahila Kisan Adhikar Manch. So this was a group of us from across the country who came together and discussed this very question that you raised. No? What shall we do? Women are doing so much work and are invisible. Wages are so low, etc. And then we decided, okay, we will work in our own states, and some of the issues for policy making we will bring to the central government. So Makam works very closely with UN Women, and together we sort of develop our policy papers internally. We practice and see what else we can do. And right now we are promoting organic agriculture on one hand. On the other hand, farmers, women farmer groups, women farmer cooperatives or women farmer companies, they are setting up agro processing industries, etc., so that they get better value in the value chain. And the other thing is, all landless women also who are laborers, we are treating them as farmers, because there is a national understanding that farmers includes not only just those who own land, but fisheries. The women who are doing, women do a lot of work in fisheries. No, the catch is brought in by the men, but the selling, the processing, a lot of work is done by women. And all the work in agriculture, we have 70% women working in agriculture. So we have to recognize, what does it mean for them? It means they must get minimum wage, because they work so hard and don't earn enough to feed themselves and their family well. So make sure that they get enough wages. And we are also, as a group, discussing social security. Now with COVID, there's no work, no lunch. So we have been asking the government, please give everybody 6,000 rupees a month till December for 6 months, so that they can get a chance to feed themselves and recover and go back to normal life. So Makam does a lot of work to make women farmers visible and to showcase the work that they are doing. Some of the innovative things that I told you in Deccan Development Society also, innovative work, organic work, growing lot of millets, which are more nutritious food, and also using less water, addressing climate change, so that you can grow crops with less water and you and I can eat healthy food.
Yeah.
So Makam works with women farmers across the country to do this.
That's a great initiative, ma'am. And not only in farming, I observe it in politics also. Generally, they elect their wives thing and husbands will be the higher hand and they rule the thing. So
Yeah.
there is a lot of patriarchy that is affecting not only women but men are also facing, like they will be asked not to cry. That is the meanest thing to say. There are a lot.
True.
Yeah.
But many of the women's groups I work with are also working with panchayats, so that as a panchayat, as a community, you try to bring about changes in the community, and you also try to prevent violence against women. Also make sure that the most marginalized people in the village, like Dalits, etc., minority groups, will get their due share of resources. So it's a long-term effort. A lot more needs to be done, but at least we keep trying.
Awareness, yeah. So, do you have anything to share to the youngsters and the girls that are working or facing issues?
I have 2, 3 things to say. First to girls. Now for girls, I just feel, one thing, please make friends. Please make good friends. Because I find that among the younger generation, especially, if you're in technical education, I don't know how many boys and girls there were in your class, Navya, out of 100. How many women were you in your mechanical engineering class?
I am studying in completely women's college, so I have around 50.
Okay, it's only women. Okay. So
Only women.
normally, the majority will be men, as minority will be women. It's changed a lot. In IT sector and all, it's almost equal. So what I feel is, one is, please make friends, because that gives us strength. That gives us power. I would say do that. Then plan for your finances, because we feel asking about money or salary increase, anything, people are hesitant and all that. Don't hesitate. It's not, as I told you, you don't have to be money minded, but you have to be aware of your rights and ask for what you need. And even with parents or with anybody, please state what you want, because my problem in the early years of my life was I didn't know how to ask for things. I would just cry the whole day. I would cry and nobody would know that I had cried. So it didn't help anybody or me or anyone. So overcome that kind of privately grieving or privately crying. Please put your thoughts on the table and discuss, negotiate. About boys, I will say, if you want to have a good life, please have a good partner. And if you want to have a good partner, then you must treat her as an equal. Because if you want to say, I am the boss, then you'll get a worker, you won't get a partner. If you say, I'm the boss, meri baat hi chalegi, I am the bread earner in the house or whatever, then you really won't get a partner in life. And do you want to be a bank balance? That's my question to young men. Dowry issues have become so great these days. But do you want women to just see you as a bank balance or somebody who just brings in the money and then, then I will just have fun at home or whatever? So I would say that for men and women, the issues are sort of the same, because when we were younger, we used to think that men have all good fun and, they're great. But they're not. because they are challenged. The role of a breadwinner, it's such a burden that only you will work and your wife you're supposed to feed and she will not work. We are telling, please, both of you go out and work if you can, because then the burden is divided. You'll have more time to yourself to do things in a better way. So partnership means equality.
Yes.
So if boys want a good life, if young men want a good life, they must think of that equality is a principle on which they should run at home, and that will hold also true outside the home. Because when you talk, since I work in rural areas, when I talk to young men like in their 20s, who are finishing graduation or something, they have all experienced discrimination, many of them. Why? Because we are a caste-based society. So if it's a Dalit boy, somebody would have said something to him in the village. Or though in Telangana things are much better than other parts of Bihar and all that, saath mein nahi khayenge, shadi mein bulayenge, they'll call you for a wedding, but the Dalit people are made to sit separately and given food and all that. So then there's no enmity, but it's not equality either. And in some cases, of course, there's enmity and a lot of horrible things also happen, as you know. So in such circumstances, the important thing is that we have to understand that we are oppressing others in our society. When you become aware, then you also understand that you are being oppressed, and in how many ways each one of us is oppressed. Because today, across the country, there are a few capitalists who have it big, because 9 families or 12 families in India, they own half the country.
Yeah.
And the rest of the billion and 3.5, we are all little cogs in the wheel. You might be doing some little business, or you might think you are great and all, but we are really cogs in the wheel. So we are all first and foremost human beings. So if I had to say something very obvious, but I would say, don't forget that we are human beings and we have a short time on earth, and let's make the best of it.
Yeah.
Let's have a good time, and let's give others also a good time. That's how I look at it.
That's a wonderful message that all could include into our diaries. To connecting to my heart. And
yes, thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I'm very happy to. I always love seeing young people because I feel आगे आप ही लोगों को चलाना है गाड़ी. So all the very best with your effort. I hope things work out well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. For more information, this is thespotlight.indianwoman@gmail.com. For those who want to support the show, you can write us a review wherever you feel like us. We are everywhere you listen. Check out our LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages for the Spotlight for more information. All of your reviews will help other women find the show and help them to get the support they need to create success and freedom. If you are enjoying the show, you can also share it with your friends. We are all very thankful to all of you who reviewed the show or even just listened to it. See you next week. XOXO.